Hey folks, so Soothe 3 has been out for a while now. To celebrate, I'd like to do a deep dive into resonances. The concept of resonance suppression was quite novel way back when the first version of Soothe was released, already 10 years ago. Well, nowadays there are quite a few resonance suppressors on the market. But why did this concept blow up? And what's our beef with resonances? Let's start by going back to the basics. So what exactly is a resonance? Now there's a precisely defined phenomenon of acoustic resonance, which you can check out on Wikipedia. However, when we're producing and mixing music, we tend to talk about resonance more broadly. In a mixing context, we call it a resonance when a narrow frequency range is way louder than its surrounding frequencies. Some resonances are part of an instrument's behavior. Others are side effects of rooms, microphones, processing, or distortion. What makes something feel like a resonance rather than just part of the tone is that it draws attention to itself. It sticks in our ear and starts coloring how we perceive the rest of the sound. Let's have a look at an instrument here on the trusty old Pro Q. I'm gonna pick something weird, like an oboe. The peaks we see here on the spectrum are the harmonics of the oboe, a graphical view of its tone. The lowest harmonic is the fundamental frequency, or the pitch of the note. We can also see these harmonics here that are louder than the fundamental. They kind of look like resonances as per our earlier definition. Let's see what happens when we turn those harmonics down with an EQ. The character of the sound changes a lot. The main question is, does it still sound like an oboe? Why am I showing you an oboe? I wanted to pick an instrument with a harmonic structure that looks like ugly resonances on a spectrum view. The oboe is interesting precisely because some of these narrow upper-mid peaks are a defining part of its identity. These weird upper-mid harmonics are how an oboe cuts through the mix in an orchestral setting. Importantly, there isn't a strict line where a harmonic turns into a resonance. The same harmonic can be character in one context and a problem in another. What matters is how it behaves relative to everything else we're hearing. As engineers, we'll have to figure out which resonances are actually useful for fitting tracks into a mix and which resonances can make our mix sound worse. Now, let's discuss the most crucial reason for why we want to treat resonances: masking. When a narrow frequency range is significantly louder than its surroundings, it can interfere with our perception of nearby frequencies. This phenomenon is called auditory masking. Masking isn't something that happens inside the signal, it happens in our hearing. Simply put, when a resonance dominates the spectrum, it casts a kind of shadow that makes nearby frequencies harder to hear. This shadow spreads outward from the dominant frequency. Let's listen to an example. I'm gonna play you a clip with 3 sine tones in a chord, and then sweep some filtered noise across it. The sine tones represent musical material, and the noise will serve as our masking resonance. As you listen, try to ignore the noise the best you can, and just focus on how you perceive the chord. Can you hear all of the separate notes at all times when the noise gets close to the chord? I promise I won't mess with its loudness in any way. No trickery there. You could see that the sine tones stay constant in volume. It is only the masking that makes them inaudible. Now, to make matters worse, as the resonance gets louder, or as we increase playback level, the masking effect spreads further, especially towards the higher frequencies. This is known as the upward spread of masking. This phenomenon is why some mixes can feel painfully bright, yet still sound weirdly dull at the same time, especially when you turn it up. Masking is often described as one instrument hiding another, but because masking is fundamentally frequency-based, it can also happen within a single sound. A strong resonance in one part of an instrument spectrum can mask other parts of that same instrument. Let's take a distorted guitar as an example. Electric guitars commonly have resonances in the upper mids due to how they are recorded. Let's listen to what happens when we tame some of those upper mids with an EQ. Notice how the tone becomes a lot easier to listen to. I'll bring the resonance back. I'm gonna turn it down again, but this time, try to listen to what happens in other frequency ranges. Can you hear the notes the guitar is playing better? Can you hear the higher frequencies better? Masking is perhaps the most crucial concept from psychoacoustics that engineers need to understand. So far, I've talked about its drawbacks, but I'd also like to mention that not all masking is bad. It also allows instruments to blend together in pleasant ways. I'd argue that using masking strategically is indeed the key to mixing. A lot of frequency-related issues get lumped together, but they're not all the same. So far we've been talking about resonances, those attention-grabbing, painful, narrow spikes you can see on your frequency spectrum. Well, what if the buildup isn't narrow enough to be called a resonance? It can still trigger masking across a broader frequency range. I like to think of these broader tonal imbalances simply as frequency buildups. They don't really hurt your ear, but they can make things feel cloudy, boxy, or heavy. You might not notice them right away, but they make it harder to hear detail and separation in your mix. Resonances and buildups require slightly different approaches to be dealt with effectively, but if you learn to manage both, you'll get an additional benefit. By dealing with resonances and buildups, we reduce masking, which in turn allows us to raise the overall level without introducing discomfort. Resonances can often sound painful, especially in the high mid-range. When you suppress these resonances, you have more leeway to balance the track against all the other elements, and this will result in a more pleasing tonal balance across your mix. Let me show you. When I'm mixing rock or metal, I don't really feel like cranking up the guitars if it's just adding more ear-piercing energy. When a guitar track has dominating resonances, it tends to sound balanced when the high mids are poking through the drums. Treating those resonances allows me to turn the fader up, bringing in a lot more of the low mids and high frequencies to fill the mix. Keeping in mind that resonance is character, if I overdo it, I can lose the focus and character of the guitars. Treat the frequency issues subtly across all of your tracks, and suddenly you gain a lot of headroom and freedom to balance your tracks against each other. I could have just as well picked an example where the bass has too much low mid energy, making it sound right when just its low mids are poking through the mix, but also making you lose a lot of true low end. Or even drum overheads, where cymbal resonances can mask away the true brightness. Not to mention vocals, where harsh resonances can really ruin the intelligibility of the lyrics. Let's sum up this video. Resonances are not inherently bad. They are often part of an instrument's character. However, when they start to dominate, they can mask other important details and throw off the balance of a mix. Then again, not all masking is bad either. It allows you to actually mix instruments together. By managing resonances and broader build-ups, we can reduce the bad effects of masking and allow more of the mix to be heard clearly. In the next video, we'll apply these ideas in practice and explore how to control resonances with Soothe while preserving the sound's character. Take care now, and see you in the next one.